Hey guys, it's 258. Did not mean to say that. Damn it, that's the wrong intro for this channel. Hey guys, and Simply, how you doing? Like I said before, I started a new channel for just the anime things, like No Game No Life, Death March. It was like a really low percentage of you have been watching that, so I just put that out there, be like, gotta yeet that out of here, because, you know, like I said, I have this analogy where, like, I've basically been selling pony stuff, and all of a sudden I just become anime stuff, but, like, it's like a literal small percentage, because I know switching content drastically would kill the channel, basically. And I don't really want it to die. I rather have it like, oh, it's alive, but dying. But in purgatory, more likely. Like, it is in purgatory right now when I'm not working on it, and I'm just giving thoughts out there. So I'm just doing that. So I called it the narrator. It's like narrator, but with an O instead of an A, just because no one has been using it. I'm like, what is this? Free name without any connections? Of course, if you spell it wrong, there's somebody called the narrator already. So, you know, that's I was gonna say the reader, but at the same time, somebody took that or has like their name, the reader, and I'm like, you fool! I want to be the anime villain here. I just like the whole concept of it in my book, in my head, was like, oh, I'm just a guy. If you played Until Dawn or Little Hope, I'm that guy that just reads those stories out to you. I hope you know that. I'm not sure if I'm gonna edit that in here, but anyways, that's probably gonna be linked down below. Anyways, ClopFic time, fools! I know you missed it. I'm yelling because no one's home. I should probably be doing this more often, so every time I record a video, people can understand me. But not with this one, because I'm probably going to slow down and like get quiet for a minute for you, because, you know, I'm going hype on the intro for some reason. Anyways, last time, for some reason, we got not humiliated, it didn't feel humiliated, but we got teased by our princess of the sun, Celestia. God damn, I don't know why I'm hype about this. I don't know if we had a name. Are we just Anon again? Are we just Anon? Are you Anon? Am I Anon? We're all Anon. Let's have some fun together with Princess. Why not? Okay, sorry. Sorry, I'm a little bit too energetic for right now. Sorry. Anyways, last time we had a little bit of fun on the pool. Was the pool on top of the castle? Or was it just like next to it and we were just like all next to the pool with our beautiful busty princess? Okay, let's just hop right into it. I'm just like going on tangents and I shouldn't be, and it's been 3 minutes already. Right, sorry about that. Let's just hop right into it. Chapter 2, Exercise Mat. It had been several long weeks since her run-in with the princess on top of the roof of her illustrious castle, but not long enough for you to forget exactly what happened in excruciatingly erotic detail, down to the second, vivid scenes of Princess Celestia peering at you from her doorframe with a hungry, ravenous look of lust on her face as she caught you wrist deep in her frilly lingerie flashed through your mind in the off moments you weren't bored of relaxing at the extensive care of the castle's services. On an oversized bed you lay, madly minding your business and wondering why in the several weeks since you had even seen Celestia, she hadn't bothered to invade your room at night and tuck herself against her newest pet in the cool dark of night. The day after had been one of rest and recuperation after Celestia's extended and welcome advances upon you, which seemed to be entirely composed of sitting on your lap and resting her near Amazonian body against your own. The sight of Celestia's body from behind, those long legs, thick thighs, wide hips, curvaceous waist and golden lingerie had kept you well occupied in the long showers you took at the end of each night. Even now, looking up at the high ceiling above you, visions of her sun-kissed olive skin entertained your thoughts. The way I felt under your fingers when she finally allowed you to touch your body was mesmerizing, smooth, and just soft enough to flex slightly under your fingers' insistence. The scent of her body, too, was something that was new and erotic. You had never known a simple aura to be so overwhelmingly alluring before, nor perfume or sweet incense had aroused your mind so simply as hers. But come now, the most memorable and sexually satisfying aspect of Celestia that day was the heavenly and round ass that sat atop her hips, dressed in revealing and erotic clothing as simple and thin as a golden thong that disappeared into the luscious crack between her plump and smackable cheeks. A twinge from your shaft registered as even thinking about gazing on Celestia's ass, jiggling and shaking. As the pair of you had climbed those stairs up to the roof, the little string that Celestia had tied around your cock had been pulled tight to force you even closer to it. Close to the point where you had leant forward an inch, your lips would have been placed on top of the smooth, soft surface, your mouth began to water. A quick glance down to your groin showed you that even though you had barely seen Celestia in the following days and weeks outside of official congregations and public addresses, she still had an incredible effect upon you. Those times her gaze turned lustful as it swept over towards you, sending cold sweats and chills, shooting you across your body, and even returned every time you so much of thought about Celestia for longer than 5 seconds. A knock on the door interrupted your thoughts of her. A female voice called out from behind it, and for a second your heart and shaft leapt at the imagination of who might it be, but the timbre was all wrong, and this female at the door didn't have the commanding air of Celestia and the power in the ways that you had seen in her use only once. Maybe Celestia's sister, Luna, or you had caught a sight of that full moon bending over and undressing when she had left her door wide open a day after Celestia had no hoisting you to the roof. Gotta love both of them, bro. Come on. Gotta love both of them. We'll break. Though Luna did possess an ass that would have started wars, sadly compared to her sister's heavenly orbs, they seemed meager in comparison, but any other day of the week, and had the sun herself not taken you in for her own, Luna would be number 2 on the list. Rumors spreading through the castle like wildfire told that Luna, perhaps being the younger sister, was insanely jealous of her sister's generous assets and had taken the more the merrier approach. Applications to guard Luna's chamber at night and had skyrocketed the week following this rumor, and small talk with a guard or two with a smirk on their face throughout their shifts told that the latter rumor at least was true. The knock sounded again, more patiently and quicker this time. The voice called out again, but it belonged to neither Luna nor the rarely visiting Cadence. Why would Cadence be here? She's literally a whole other biome away. What the heck? Visiting Cadence, whom you would have liked to meet to see if she at least looked like the Princess of Love title she had been awarded. After the third loud knock, you scrambled out of the bed, slightly reluctant to feel the tense softness of the heavy mattress leave your back and fingers. A little fleek underneath the door revealed a thin white envelope emblazoned on the back with a dry red wax seal. A message from the princess. Urgent. The messenger on the side of the door spoke. You recognized her voice finally just as she left. A royal messenger, light on her feet and quick, darting around the castle in no time. You stepped closer towards the large wooden door and towards the bone-white collar of the envelope, still half wedged underneath the wood. Bare feet stepped and slightly stuck to the cold, hard marble floor beneath you as you left the comfort of the thick rugs, and bent down to pick up the ladder. The letter. Have I been saying ladder for letter the whole time? Pretty bad. Not one for dragging out a process longer than it should be. Despite taking a good look at how official the wax seal on the box of the envelope was, you ripped open the letter, discarding the whole envelope, still intact, to the ground at your feet. A quick unfurl revealed a note directly from Princess Celestia to you, addressed to your room. Taking the note in both hands, your eyes scrolled across the page, taking in the neat and precise words written by Celestia to you, and didn't even start with your name. I'm sure the feelings have subsided by now, so I think it's time for round 2. Don't think I'll be going easy on you this time. She went easy on you last time? I'll be waiting at the building with a silver domed roof just opposite the castle. Don't want you going too far away from me. The door will be open. Don't keep me waiting. Love, Celestia. A gulp caught in your throat as you read to the short letter to yourself. Sister wanted me more of you today, as in right now. A little trouble broke out in your legs as you scanned the letter again and again to see if you missed anything important. The letter fluttered to the floor as your hands shook with a mixture of apprehension and arousal. What would you do if you obliged your wishes and the next 2 hours would be spent at her command, squirming underneath her control? But if you didn't, then the punishment would be much more severe. Wait, is this a lose situation if you just don't want to go? Okay, personal tangent time. I don't care if I'm into being a masochist, which I'm not, but fuck that, dude. If I don't want to go, I'm not fucking going, dude. What the hell? Wait, I'm not meaning to say I shouldn't be swearing this early. God damn it, my stupid yellow dollar sign is gonna be right there. Alright. Repeating it was good enough for you to memorize it. Should you set off now, or was it difficult to think with the prospect of being dominated so easily by Celestia. Maybe last time was just a test to see if you were strong enough to withstand just a fraction of her power. Maybe this time it might just be the end of you. You caught yourself with your hand on the door handle, and without us stopping, the heavy door let out a soft click as it opened smoothly. Your feet seemed to walk forward without you controlling them, almost as if they were separate from you, dragging you towards something that would be intense and pleasurable, hopefully for both you and her. Again, like last time, the castle was mostly empty, save for the steel-faced guards that stood next to doors of importance, with the golden plaques and letters in black etched upon them. Whether most of these were empty, it was impossible to know. Each guard by himself was a head taller and a hoof a foot wider than you were, perfect muscular figures, but they never once shifted their eyes to look at you. Why would they stare and try to unnerve one of Celestia's guests, which one complete would have them facing punishment they dare not think about? Okay, people are back. Now gotta calm down. Damn it. See, this is a problem here. This is a problem. Goddamn, why did I take a break there? Anyways, let's get back into it. Your bare feet stepped across the light carpets that showed little wear and tear, even from the numerous heavy boots from the guards. Dainty maids dashed and zipped from place to place around you, dipping past the guards untouched as they went about tidying, dusting, and cleaning the extensive castle from top to bottom. Armed with brushes that reached every nook and cranny available until it was spotless, like the guards, none of them as much looked at you in the slightest, either too concentrated on their jobs to notice, or just trying to avoid the slightly scruffy man walking through her halls, memorizing his footsteps so they know where to clean the best. But it wasn't so much fun to think of them. Instead, as usual, your mind drifted to thoughts of what Celestia had in store for you today, filling your thoughts with ideas of erotic things too lewd to imagine. The sun beamed down from its position high up in the sky, gracing the entire countryside in soft, warm, pillowy. No, that's not right. Celestia's body swayed and danced in your mind as erotic ideas of what she was planning. Would it be more of the same, an extended lying down session that lasts until the sun sets or something new? Did she have some sort of fetish you haven't discovered yet? Femdom seemed to be the flavor of the month, but was there something silly behind that gorgeous face like farts? Bro, no. Why would you think? Get out of the narration. No. Anna, you disgust me, you pervert. No, that was too silly. You pushed the thought out of your mind as you pushed the door open to the outside. From the long corridor that was already being cleaned by the maids behind you, a gust of pleasant warm wind snaked under your chin, striking like a smooth hand up your neck. The whistling wind that slithered its way around the spires and tall towers of the castle sounded like a cooling of a smooth voice urging you to walk forward. Trees and grass, greener than anything that should have been possible, spread out all across the open courtyard that linked to the castle to the path down the center. Water break. Bright sunlight reflected off the shaped silver dome directly at you, meaning you didn't have to look around for an hour to see where it was. It was just across the brick path that flowed like a serpent to a tall iron fence manned by several of the fiercest-looking guards on the royal bill, staring down their helmets at anyone who ever thought about looking at them funny. But coming from the inside and being on Celestia's personal guest list meant all smiles. Bare feet on warmish bricks wasn't the best of choices. Should have stuck to actual shoes. As you approached, a momentary sneer dared to cross the face of one of the guards before you realized who you were. Wordlessly, and with a clack of his weapon's butt against the ground, a command was sent to open the wrought iron fence on well-lubricated wheels that slid back with just a push. Besides wind and faraway chatter from distant crowds milling around shops, the only sound came from the synchronized clank of the armor they all wore, shifting as their heavy boots raised up and slammed down in the salute. Although it was hardly necessary, you weren't royalty. At ease, you let slip out, a grin trying to form on your lips. You relaxed, slightly staring ahead with a neutral line for a mouth across their face. The metal gate clinged behind you with false promises from the guards who remember your face, so you'll be let in easily. But mumblings between two of them reminded the other that Celestia wouldn't find it so amusing when she heard that her guest had been excluded from the entire castle. True enough to Celestia's word, the silver dome building was just over to the left side from the steel gate entrance of the castle, swarming the streets of Catalan, where the castle sat in the center like a shining jewel, where the upper-class nobility, mainly unicorns with a Pegasus or two splashed around for diversity's sake. These suit-clad nobles turned their nose up at anything they didn't carry as much pomp as air as they did. Oh, how sweet was their confusion the first time you arrived, where you were just unkempt, rough by the standards, nobody, who was invited to be Celestia's guest of the castle, casting them to treat you with understandable apprehension. I love it, and this, I'm not sure who Anon is of this, but I'm pretty sure it's just an average-looking Joe. But I love it when you're just, like, somebody from another world, and you're just like, oh, get special treatment, but you're like, I don't care to dress up for you guys, alright? I don't care. Titles? What that doesn't even give you anything in life except for privilege and some sort of like priority. Just some, not for long priority, which is like, bruh, like, yeah, fuck you guys. Other than they just F you guys. Small groups of tourists with accents ranging from thick Ireland to the standard upper class that seemed so common around Castle you had noticed it creeping into your own voice when conversing with the maids, who seemed much chattier than the stony-faced guards. Maids are all about gossip from time to time. Throngs of people passed you as they observed the grandeur of the castle behind the iron fence. A quick check before you disappeared into the crowd showed that the guards' faces had returned back to their normal grumpy features. Then you were lost in the crowds of the upper crust, upper class people heading in a beeline towards the silver dome building that almost seemed lost among the taller, paler buildings flanking it on either side. The crowd was easy to pass through, although pompous upper class snobs didn't even want to associate themselves while looking or touching you, giving you a wide enough berth that they dared without seeming rude. As you stepped closer and closer to the silver building, the crowd thinned, giving you even more space to move. Little mumbles and murmuring leaked out from the crowd as the silver building encroached upon you. Seemingly growing taller and taller, a simple door lay at the bottom of the simplest building, the sun behind your back cast your shadow to sit on the base of the glass door at the front, looking through the transparent glass of the door. It was dark. All the lights were off on the inside, just the sunlight coming through to light it slightly. You stopped in front of the door, stepping onto the little slab of stone that separated you from the flat brick of the streets, and the rest of the crowd, being closer against the glass, allowed you to even better to look inside if you pressed your face to it. Strangely, it was empty on the inside. Where usually at least several ponies would be manning the counter or lounging alongside with a lazy attitude, there was no one inside. Not but an abandoned registration desk without someone behind it met your curious gaze inside you. You looked over your shoulder, expecting someone to be looking at you strangely for placing your head up against the glass of an empty building, but no one even bothered to give you more than a glance. The door let out a slight squeak as you pushed it open, and the cool air from inside below it to meet you, contrasting with the warm sun lathering across the back of your neck. With only a momentary thought of hesitation, you stepped inside, shivering slightly as the linoleum floor was cool against your bare feet, and for the third time since leaving the castle, you wondered why you didn't wear shoes. As the door behind you closed with a light click, there was something in the air that smelled a little too familiar. A scent flowed through the air that licked and teased into your nose. A scent of fresh fruits just faint enough that you could just sense it. Ahead of you was a corridor with a door at the end left wide open and entered onto what looked to be a soft floor. A sign attached to the wall on the other side of the entrance hall simply read, "Cancel out Gymnasium, 15 gold bits, week membership offer." Pieces of the puzzle began to slot together in your mind. Celestia had to keep up the incredibly erotic figure somehow, and what better way than a gym fit for a princess? But you had experiences with the gym before, some good, some bad, but the good memories of seeing the ponies clad from foot to shoulder in tight spandex, doing stretches and exercises made a lump the size of a golf ball in your forming your throat. With no other direction to go other than back out in the crowd where you would certainly face Celestia's wrath later, you stepped forward down that corridor, appreciating the light carpet that took your feet from the linoleum floor. Silence had fallen once the door had closed, but as you walked down the corridor towards the door that opened into the room, there was only the sound of your breathing, and slowly a second set of breathing faded in, deeper and slower than yours. It came from the room ahead, the source hidden. Like Celestia said, the door was open, and you now stood seconds from stepping inside to no doubt be seduced or entranced by Celestia's body and her erotic ways that caused you to tingle in the inside. Looking down, you wondered how you would even last if an erection was greasing you already, nearly tenting through your pants. How quick would it be before she noticed when you walked in? Seconds? A minute? Aren't you going to step inside? Celestia's smooth voice spilled through the doors, breaking the silence quite abruptly. The lump in your throat stopped you from speaking for a second as you tried to respond to her. "I said don't keep me waiting." There was a little chuckle from Celestia. She referred back to the letter slid under your door. Immediately you stepped through the door, closing your eyes for a second as to not let her blow you away before you even stepped inside. But as you opened your eyes, your jaw dropped. In front of you, at the far end of the room, stood Celestia. Her tall, curvaceous figure was impossible to forget, even for a glance. She was facing away from you, head down with her chin dipped into her neck, her hands grasped at a belay bar attached to the wall, which ran the length of one side. As you stepped onto the sofa cushiony floor, Celestia turned her head to look over her shoulder, casting a lusty glance your way, one that nearly made your knees buckle. Fam, Anon is really wanting her that, like his body's just breaking, just being in the same room, bro. Like what? I'd just be like, oh, we fucked. I'd be like, okay. Or you tease me too much. I'm like, I'm not gonna deal with that. Even if I was like gonna get punishment later, I would get punishment later than actually like have a false promise of a relationship. I'm not sure if that's false for Anon though, but I feel like it's false in my book. But it wasn't her look that nearly got you. It was more that she was wearing that took your breath from the ankles to her white hips. Yeah, like sometimes bare skin is just boring. I'm feeling that now. Celestia's long legs were constrained by a thin black pair of what seemed to be your yoga pants. Oh, that curvaceous ass. That's just me imagining, sorry. Whew! Which stretched over her substantial ass that bounced even as she made a movement so small as turning. The way that material hugged her skin all the way it stretched so thin over her thick thighs and rounded her hips to the point where her olive skin was visible, albeit tinged black through the fabric, was just lip-bitingly erotic, even as your eyes raked up her body. Every single detail of her long, shapely legs was exaggerated by the hugging tightness of those pants, especially how it held in close to the curve of her graspable ass cheeks that came together, stretching over the top of the cleavage between those soft, graspable mounds. And that wasn't all. Leading up past the rim of those flexible pants on her wide hips was the tapering waist with nary an ounce of spare fat to be seen, making her the perfect hourglass figure as it widened out again. Large breasts contained by a tight white sports tip jiggled by a tight white sports top jiggled as she turned slightly, the tanned olive skin contrasting with the nearly bleached white top she wore. Celestia's long multicolored hair was spread over her shoulders, trailing down her spine to reach just above her hips. As the room was in shade, her hair did not sparkle as magnificently as it had done atop the castle, but it glimmered instead in the ambient light. Celestia crossed her legs slightly, balancing on one foot on the raised Achilles tendon of the other as she put all her weight on the toes of that bare foot. The slight movement of her body jiggled, her thighs and cheeks settling down a little quicker as she tensed the large thigh muscles that could easily, welcomely crush her head. A slight tilt of the hips made all the difference in those pants that eagerly clung to her body, a movement you would enjoy simply to watch. I feel like Anna doesn't say much when it comes to just being in Celestia's presence here, because he knows he's just a toy at the end of the day. So how was the view? A little nibble of her bottom lip coupled with half-lit eyes and her smooth, seductive voice is enough to make your mind simply spin. Unable to concentrate, Celestia stared at you from over her shoulder that good. She chuckled slightly. Your eyes were fixed to her body, her hips in general. Celestia turned to face you, showing off the fact her smooth midriff was bare to the air. Those heavenly features of her looked back at you. Heavenly features of hers looked back at you, a smooth chin at the base, with a delicious pair of red lips just above them. Her violet eyes were just as piercing as you remember, staring right through you. It felt as if she could read anything and everything about you that you dared to think. Which is kind of scary because she is a alicorn and she could probably do that. Have you been thinking about me since last time? The question was innocent enough, but both of you knew that Celestia was well aware how much of an effect she had on you. You seemed a little surprised to see me. Her hands left the horizontal pose fixed to the wall behind her, pushing herself off it and towards you. A smile crept across her face as she stepped towards you slowly, exaggerating her walk with swung hips. Like a deer caught in headlights, you couldn't move as the Amazonian beauty walked slowly towards you, delicately placing one foot in front of the other. One hand rested on her hips, giving her already confident and perhaps over-exaggerated walk more emphasis, but it wasn't needed. You wouldn't be going anywhere, and as Celestia saddled up next to your body, you shivered. The thick, delicious scent from her body, a fresh fruit, seemed to roll over you. Even her aroma alone brought back memories of that one day several weeks ago. Although anything these days remind you of her. I got your letter, you meekly responded. How do you know you would not be standing here now? I suppose I better ask what you have planned. For you today, Celestia hummed, tapping her chin as she was simply thinking of what to do to you at that second. With no great hassle, I was able to secure this room for several hours, as the sign outside no doubt tipped you off we're at the gym. Celestia was only several inches from touching your body, but you wanted to reach out and just grasp her, even just a little. It was tempting. It's how I keep this figure you so adore. More than adore. Oh damn, man, my boy's just like, oh. Today would have been one of those days, and I thought, why not get you involved? How involved? A stutter as more pieces made up the puzzle of her intentions intimately. Celestia leaned in and exhaled heavily against your ear, whispering the word that sent a shiver up and down your spine. Inadvertently, you took a step back, nearly pressing yourself against the wall behind you. Celestia was quick to close the gap that formed, moving in closer than before, little eyes looking down at you. A grunt left your lips at the simple act of was enough to rub your shaft against the fabric of your trousers. The rules are the same as before, such as Slag been told of her predatory nature. 1. No speaking unless I speak to you. It's just more luring if you stay mysterious. 2. If I ask you something, you do it. No hesitations or waiting. Her grin grew as you remember the third rule. She could see in your eyes. 3. No orgasming. No matter how arousing or erotic this might be, you are not allowed to release unless I say so, of course. Chief are too cheerfully listed these rules off for something so tantalizing. And finally, rule 4. Oh, remember, when I hit you with this one last time and your face just crumbled, no touching of me at all. She smiled, not a hand to stroke or a pair of lips to kiss. The final rule is always the hardest to swallow. How does this expect you to possibly restrain yourself from sliding a hand up those thighs, or to give a slight smack on the ass when presented? Like last time, you had to try and ignore her teasings completely. Though you admittedly limited methods of simply trying to think about something else or flexing your fingers and toes when it got serious, were somewhat ineffectual at best. Wait, it didn't work last time? What the heck? Guys, I'm torturing myself by like finishing this first and not eating. God, my stomach is gonna kill me. Alright, that's bottle number 1, boys. Let me at least get a taste of the next one. Alright, let's get back into it. The rules are set. And let's see what you do. Okay, I understand. It always sounded like you signed a warrant for your own death when you accepted and relinquished control to her. Sister only smiled in return. Then we begin. Firstly, we need to get warmed up. Warm up is simple. It's just a couple of long held stretches against the wall. You don't mind helping me with a few of these, do you? Of course not. Excellent. Sister placed a hand against your chest and pushed you against the wall, which was less than half a step behind you, forcing you against a soft padded wall with ease. The first stretch that I do is simple. All I do is turn around, plant my hips against the wall, and bend over until I touch my toes. But you were between her and the Sister turned slowly away from you, and with slow, almost practiced grace, and socks of a foot next to yours, the back of her thigh touches your own as she settles in, before the other foot slides to the far side of your other foot a second later. An adverment grunt leaves your lips as Celestia's weighty and wide hips press eagerly against your own. Perfectly and beautifully soft, her ass inside those stretchy pants is simply a wonder to behold, but your vision turns slightly multicolored as Celestia's long hair obscures your view for a second. While she gets comfortable, your erection is straining quite excessively against your trousers, trying to break free from its cloth confinement, but Celestia is more than happy to let you strain and struggle. And once Celestia leans forward, displaying her flexibility by easily bending over, stretching her hands out to touch her toes. The stretching does amazing movement to her entire lower half, namely her ass cheeks of wonder seem to separate slightly, allowing your erection to fall neatly between her cheeks where it not containing, but also sends a rippling up her thighs as they go taut with the strong muscles beneath the skin easily flexing against you. The sudden urge to grab her substantial ass is essentially strong. As her hair falls away, the thoughts of how smooth and soft it would feel around your fingers seem to dance in your head. Ideas of black fabric sliding between your digits filled your mind, such to pull back up slowly, making sure that you were trapped firm by your hips, so especially between your cheeks. And another vermin moan left you, given the impression that she was far too effective in her teasings, and so she should be, but some mental strength on your part was to be expected, although it seemed far too soon. You'd have to use it sooner or later, and sooner might just be the end of you. And two, Celestia dipped down again, making sure you felt every inch of her body by slowly pressing against you firmer and firmer. The strength and the weight of those hips against your own was intimidating in a way, and the way she could use them with ease only served to arouse you even further. Looking back down was a mistake. The way her pants clad her ass bounced and jiggled against her shaft was too far erotic to be real. Black fabric sailed across her skin the way sand sails across the desert, and it defined the curve and size of her exemplary ass with absolute ease. I feel like I said that wrong, whatever. The hardest part about resisting Celestia's charms, ignoring your erection of course, was the way she seemed to be able to control how her ass cheeks could squeeze with ease. Right now she was tensing her cheeks around your restrained shaft as she let down, forcing groans and moans from you. She thought were cute. Again, Celestia made her way back up to you, rising with ease thanks to her stature until her back was pressed against your chest again, and the air obscured your vision once more. Only 3, otherwise you'll burst too quickly. Had you been able to see, you wouldn't have watched Celestia wink seductively, biting her lower lip as she saw how strange your face was already. Standing upright gave her a little more push on her hips, something she used to slowly grind herself against you for a second, moving clockwise, reveling in the moans she extracted from you simply by sliding her weighty hips from side to side. Celestia dipped and bent over, back over. The cheeks tightened again, and there was a silent urge not to break from Celestia's teasing, despite the pleasure building in their extremities. Luckily, a simple flex of set digits, coupled with a few less extensive stretches of your own, tackled that problem quite nicely. Though lifting yourself on your tiptoes for a second was not wise, pushing your erection between those cheeks rather than staying still. Hands twitched as you try to fight away the urge to slide just a finger up her thighs, the desire to feel her with such a light touch, opposed to the thick, capricious hips that pinned you to the wall, sliding and grounding heftily against you. But Celestia would offer you no such joys. As she stood up, her own hands traced up her legs, starting at the ankles and erotically tracing up her calves, before curving out to match the thick thighs against your own. She finished with a single finger. On the other hand, tracing the wide curve of her voluptuous hips before stroking up her flat stomach on her way to her significant bust. Alright, boys, I'm gonna take another day break from here. Alright, third day trying to record this, boys. Let's go. The pinning pressure of her hips against yours is released as Celestia takes a step forwards, done with her stretches, and ready for more already. The soft sensation of her ass, leaving your groin, is both welcome and mourned, partly for allowing you to last a little longer, and partly because of the lip-battingly erotic feeling of her large, soft cheeks, heftily pressed against you, made a little tingle you enjoyed too much. I feel I have to cut my usual routine in half, otherwise you'd snap like a twig in several minutes, not something that would be engaging for the two of us. Celestia stepped forward more, back into the center of the room, glancing over her shoulder at you with half-lidded eyes, but your hands were on your knees, and you were hunched over, unaware of her lusty gaze as you tried to catch your breath back and fight back the erection harder than rock. Had you looked, there was a small damp patch staining in the front of your trousers and a single droplet on the floor between you and Celestia as she walked away. This erection was not going away, no matter how much you tried to think about other things that weren't arousing. Each time you tried, all thoughts led back to Celestia and the intensely round, jiggling cheeks that sat at eye level as you stood bent over. Come here, Celestia beckoned without lifting a finger, letting the smooth, encouraging tone of her voice draw you forward instead of it. It worked. The soft timbre of her voice was more than enough to pull you to her, and if it wasn't, then defying rule 2 was more than enough motivation. Nearly groggy, you pushed yourself upright, almost stumbling towards her drunkenly. She placed a hand on your chest, turning in the blink of an eye. Now, this won't do. Her finger toyed gently with the thin collar of your shirt you wore. Take it off, just that, for now. With only a second of hesitation, your hands pulled upwards on the hem of your shirt. The fabric broke sight between you and Celestia. Time she used to surprising effectiveness as your vision turned red from the fabric filling your view. Celestia moved in close, pressing a slim hand directly against your shaft. All the preparation and mental steeling you had made in the minute you were hunched over was for naught. As a second or smooth touch was felt through the layers of clothing, you were back to full erection instantly. She moved in close, pressing just for a short second against your body, letting you feel the fullness of her bust. Restrained by the white sports bra with no shirt, your chest was bare against the insanely soft fabric of her clothes. The way her impressive breasts flattened against her chest made you aware of the warmth they had. Just before the shirt cleared your eyes as you pulled it up and over your head, Celestia cooed softly into your ear, nearly close enough to feel her lips kiss against it, and easily close enough to feel her warm breath roll over it and down your neck. In her hand, your shaft gave a throb as she exhaled with an air of wanton need. The shirt came free, and Celestia was easily back where she stood. The light grasp of your shaft through the 2 layers of clothing was gone, and as well as the hefty pressure into your chest of her substantial bust, something she hadn't shown you last time. A small blush was on your face, something you had hoped she wouldn't notice, although it was impossible to hide something from her. Maybe she had, or the smile on her face was for something else. Had one of the windows been open, a breeze would have rolled across your naked upper half, but with all the doors closed, it was warming up instead. Let's kick it up a notch. Even the words alone sent a shiver down your spine. Celestia turned once more to face away and couldn't help but take several glances down her back to the white hips and 2 handfuls of soft flesh. With a swipe across of a single finger into the air, a padded bench materialized from thin air, fizzling noisily into existence in front of her. It was roughly the height of your knees and looked more like a slab of cushion than a typical bench, but then again, this was a gymnasium and things were different. Lay down, lay your head at the center. She didn't even turn to look at you from where you stood behind her. A gulp lodged in your throat as you obeyed Celestia's order, kneeling first and catching a nice close sight of her bountiful ass before laying down on the soft floor. Maneuvering into place, you settle just underneath the bench, head just below and underneath it. If someone were to sit on that bench, you would be just below their thighs, and what a lovely view it would be. Celestia would be the one to sit atop that bench, gracefully and carefully, her feet stepped either side of your body as she moved over you, granting you a delicious sight of her towering, voluptuous Amazonian form from the ground up, those wide hips looking even wider and wider from down where you were. She stepped over as she turned to sit down. For a brief second, there was a sight line all the way up her long legs into the depths between her legs. In that moment, you could see the droplets of her arousal building up against the tight fabric that clung to her. Arms spread, a soft command, one you would not argue against. The millisecond your arms were level with your shoulders to make a single line, binds clamped down on your wrists, invisible to your eyes. An attempt to kick out with your legs had the same effect. Any struggles from you were easily kept in check. Wrists and ankles were shaken, but neither would move. Can't have you running away from me now, can I? Celestia chuckled as if it was in neither of your minds that you would flee. She teased a toe against your chest, lightly turning it in circles around your pecs, letting you feel the softness of the fabric coating her lower body. Only able to move your head, it was only natural you looked. I think only 1 set of 10 would do for this exercise, then we can move on quickly. Celestia placed her hands on the rim of the soft bench, fingers curling and hooking around the lip for good grasp. You had to bite your tongue to prevent yourself from asking what exercise, but that would break rule 1. Celestia spoke the question that was on your lips. But 1 set of what? Tricep dips, she said simply. With that, her long legs drifted down your body, dragging the fabric along your chest and down to your groin before separating and forming into half splits. But you weren't interested in that, not at all. Instead, seeing as your view became filled with it, your mind became occupied by it, and your shaft reacted to it. It was more urgent than you thought about Celestia's ass. Wait, hold up, weren't you not supposed to talk? Why are you talking? I guess she's like, oh, she's like suggesting, I guess she's suggesting, and she's asking you if that's okay, I'm guessing. I'm not sure how the context is that you don't talk, man, unless you are speaking to. I guess she's just looking into your eyes, and I guess that counts. I'm not sure. Well, I'm saying he's not the only one getting aroused by now. Fam, it's only been like a few minutes, and I didn't realize how crazy this was. The black cloth behemoth of flesh slid off the gym bench and into the air directly above your head. Words failed just how magnificent and awe-inspiring the view was from your precision. Each cheek seemed the size of your head, and the tightness of the fabric showed exactly where your face would be fit between. The slow descent, controlled by her arm muscles, was enough to force you to stare long and hard into the depths of her ass. But as if you weren't already, closer and closer it dropped down as her calves and thighs were tightened by the strong muscles beneath her skin. It sent ripples across the thin fabric, easily enough to send the ass above your head into jiggles that never seemed to stop. But the ass just kept on coming down without you being able to stop it. Straining your wrist to try and grasp or divert it didn't work as those binds were too strong. All you could do was helplessly struggle underneath her ass as it closed in on your nose first. Wetness touched your nose, causing a drip to cascade down the bridge of your nose to settle between your eyes. Would she descend any further? Would she go the whole way and smother you underneath her weighty and impressive hips? Would she cut off your hair and force you to give her pleasure in return for a little breath? Not this time. Perhaps disappointingly, only to you, Celestia pushed herself back up, denying you the pleasure of being drawn under those hips and smothered until unconsciousness was a valid option. No, she pushed herself up with ease despite the huge weight of her hips, leaving your vision to be directly focused on the damp spot located between her cheeks. You had to grit your teeth as she reached the top of her lift upwards. 9 more to go. Oh, so this is, okay, I just realized, this is the main event, boys. She descended quicker this time, nearly dropped right down to touch your nose with ease, but she stopped just above it again, sending a huge wave jiggling all across her legs, and that also sent a rush to your erection. Once she stopped teasing you and denying and planted her weighty hips atop your face, you wouldn't last long at all. She touched the tip of your nose again, and something kept your head down to the floor as you tried to push upwards, more magic restraints, you guessed. A denial once more, Celestia lifted back up. A grunt and groan left you agitated and in need of a release now. Weeks and weeks of pent-up desire were nearly in your face, but still she kept it from you, hips weakly bucked, in order to feel a sensation from your trousers, but it quickly became useless and unfulfilling. You didn't want to finish anywhere but at her command. 2. It became a blur, a whisking, spitting sensation of teasing and close calls. Time and time again, the black-coated ass would blot out the ceiling to the point that it was the only thing you saw. Ripples like a stone cast into a compound of saw would sail across her ass and meet in the center as her muscles worked to move her body. Small distance slowly drips down the bridge of your nose, became more abundant with each careful drop, the warm liquid erotic in its own right. God, why am I energetic for this? Alright, if you guys don't understand, she's counting down. Hopefully you know what those numbers mean. 5. Sweat was running down her thick thighs that would heavily press themselves into your bare chest, remaining on your skin each time. It would tingle against your skin, warmth spreading through it and deep into your chest, almost relaxing you once or twice, perhaps to tease you or taunt you. Celestia would accidentally dip a little too far and your nose would be lost between her cheeks for a fraction of a second, allowing her heavenly scent to fill your nostrils before she lifted up again, leaving you with just a taster. 8. You thought this would be a simple, quick exercise that wouldn't break you down so much, but the repeated denial of the glory, having those cheeks part upon your face, and her full weight pushed down upon you, demanding pleasure in the simplest way, was just agonizing. A bitter mind left you hungry for her, to taste her and kiss it. You needed all of it now, with a chest and nose dampened by her sweat and juices. You tingled all over from her derived attentions to you, and 10, it was over, all over. The final push from Celestia was the slowest and most erotic of them all. As your nose disappeared into her cheeks, her hips gyrated only slightly, pulling your face this was and that with ease. But before her tongue could be extended to lick away, it was pulled off your face once more to an extended moan from you. With a face wet from the hips that spit her juices across your face, you grasped for air, slightly urging for the pleasure that was taken from your grasp so many times. And rest. Something was wrong. The whole steps were coming closer. They were descending straight to your face. Surely at rest means she was just sitting on the bench, right? But no, those white hips were definitely descending upon to your face one last time. The familiar and still welcome of those white hips trapped you in tight black fabric, moving towards your features. But they weren't stopping this time. Deep breath. You obeyed without question, inhaling the stained air as quickly as you could before you were cut off. Like before, your view was filled and the droplet dripped down your nose, but instead of stopping, Celestia continued down, taking your entire face into the soft flesh of her ass with gusto. The last sight before all wet and black was the small dot on her yoga pants that had become a sizable patch. The nearly crushed weight pressed down onto your features. The heat of her slit, an inch from your nose, had seen it. From the outside, as Celestia rested down on your features, you would have seen her ass cheeks and up your face, encompassing it completely to the point where it nearly spilled over and touched the soft floor around your head. But inside her grip was ecstasy. Warmth and weight were constant and tense. Only slight tenses in the muscles of her thighs as she moved her legs slightly. There was a muffled command from Celestia, one you barely heard through her thick hips. Lick. With your arms and legs were trapped, the only line of defense you had was your tongue. It was impossible not to at least try to lick you to your heart's content. Your tongue grazed against the fabric of her yoga pants, trying to break through and get to the core of her hips, tinged with the juices of her arousal. Unlike last time, there was no taut golden panties stretched across her substantial ass that overwhelmed your head. Celestia moaned and shifted, the deep sounds exuding from her, vibrating through to your head slightly. The muscles of her thighs against your chest tensed as Celestia moved her legs from the floor next to your hips. Her feet slid closer towards her head, her body shifting towards her compensate ankles slid into her hand's grasp, and her thick thighs trailed down your arms, pitting them even more than they were before. The soft fabric seemed to slither over your skin. Woo! I'm just trying to end it, boys. But we get more and more. More, Celestia urged you on, lowering a hand to cup your chin and struck a finger down your neck. Eyes closed and tongue licking in circles at a near constant rate. Tense and taut, thighs pressed down heavily, pushing all of Celestia's weight down upon you. The change of position allowed for some air to sneak into your mouth, daring your tongue's eager attention to the one using your face as a chair. Underneath her, it was hot, aromatic, and shifting as she gyrated her hips slightly back and forth every few seconds. One of her slim fingers would intrude upon your tongue and become coated in her juices, dipping down into your mouth, demanding its own attention. Not one to disappoint her, you indulge in bidding it slide your tongue up and down the wet finger until it is cleansed of her juices. Then it would retract and press warmly into the depths between your cheeks, emerging coated in juices even once more, demanding more and more attention. But this position was only a transition between the earlier exercise and her next, a convenient stopping point to further bend and break you to be her toy to play with. As Celestia leant forward, the spare hand not in your mouth flicked across the air, and the knee-high bench behind her fizzled back into nothingness with only a small wisp of gold carried away by the wind as remnants. Brush your top of your head. She slowly began to lay down against your chest. Firstly, her navel against your sternum, then her flat stomach against your chest. Her long legs shifted again, sliding back around to behind your head, but still pinned you where you were unable to resist. The slow pressure from her thick thighs converging upon your head. You were being assaulted by her voluptuous body from two sides. One from those prior mentioned thighs that seemed to squeeze the sides of your head together in their vice-like grip, and one from the slowly lowering body of Celestia, whose warm skin was incredibly welcome against your own. The wet finger, cold by your tongue, slid out slowly and traced its way down your chest, slowly making its way down to your groin. Then something heavy and soft pressed down directly against your restrained erection. A groan from you was muffled as it was obvious that it was heavily pressed against your groin. Celestia's larger breast pushed down against you with ease. Warmth blossomed through your pants as her full weight trapped you even further. You won't need these anymore. Her hand slid between you, quickly and effectively unbuttoning your trousers with practiced grace. Momentary elevation of pressure graced your groin as Celestia lifted up from you for just a second, and the tightness of your waistband was gone too. With strength that was unexpected, Celestia hooked her fingers at the rim of your trousers and slowly pulled them away halfway down your thighs. Sorry if you guys can hear my phone. Another break because that was a full page. Oh, come on, we got like five quarters left. Come on. A tug at the hem of your trousers from her magic was enough to nearly free them easily, just catching on your toe, but Celestia wanted none of that, and with another step of her hand, it flew across the room to collide against the wall and collapsed into a crumbled heap. Then you were just laying there, not but underwear, with Celestia laying on top of your chest and pinning you to the soft floor, her warm body overwhelmingly dominating your own. Then you were nearly naked again in the presence of Celestia, who only lightly chuckled to herself at your situation. A single finger pressed against the base of your shaft, and she drew it slowly to the tip, watching you squirm and shudder, and sparks of pleasure rush all over your body. It was difficult now to resist every squirm and shudder and sparks of pleasure and rush all over your body. It was difficult now to resist every second with that feeling running through you. Any second now would be your undoing. Just a slight feathered touch here or there would spill your end, and no doubt punishment for her. But oh, that simple touch was nearly enough. Just a flex of fingers and mental stealing kept you from losing right then and there, although nothing seemed to be able to hold back from her much longer. Her thighs continued to close in on your head, tightening slightly and squeezing the tip of your head between them, but you never stopped licking. Even as you felt Celestia's body shift and move your own, you had a job to do, and punishment if you didn't perform as she expected. Luckily, Celestia's soft morning told you it was working at a little at least. Well, then the last one will be simple. But it was obvious anything simple for her would mean you grinding up against her body almost totally. Just push-ups. There was a wicked smile upon her face as she squeezed her thighs together around your head, nearly crushing your mouth and nose into the depths of her legs. First thing, the strength heavenly sent to pour like liquid into your nose. She placed her hands either side of your waist, shifting the balance of her lower half by rising up on one foot and placing the other atop it. One, as before, her arms lifted her up, and the pressure lessened around your groin for a moment, but using her thighs as well meant almost crushing pressure around your head, tightening and holding you in, completely cut off from any air. Keep licking, she could appreciatively, giving a squeeze of affection to your head. Although it was so similar to the other squeezes, you couldn't differentiate between them. Your head was dragged upwards with Celestia's thighs, and a fight broke out between them and your arms, which were still pinned to the ground by your wrists. She reached the peak of her arm's push and let herself down slowly, enough that it was drawn out to process that made you urge and lust for her more. Her large warm breast, clothed in the soft fabric, pressed down against your shaft, not only hidden by your underwear. The softness of those pillow-like breasts weighed down on your groin, your shaft so perfectly locked between those breasts. Warmth flooded through it, setting a tingling sensation off that wouldn't stop. 3. Was she skipping? Were you losing count or conscious? It didn't matter. Now there was only the thought rushing through your mind of a survival. Survive this arduous task and be rewarded, but at every step of the way, carnal and lesser temptations urged and demanded you fought to them. Enticing and demanding sensations that will swarm and curled around your body as she toyed with you for what might have been at least an hour by now. 5. Halfway done, it was palpable how close you were to victory. Now, those large, warm breasts didn't make it easy, though. Each time she pressed down, your cock would try to escape its confinement and slide into her cleavage. It was damp all over your underwear, but the absence of nirvanic pleasure meant you hadn't lost to your seductive talent just yet. Just your arousal announcing its arrival with copious amounts of pre-cum leaking from the tip. Said tip thought it would be amusing to free itself from the elastic waistband of your underwear, and as Celestia pressed down, it received the full pressure of her large breast, attempting to flatten it. The tip disappeared into the base of her cleavage, and for just a millisecond, the feeling of her soft, warm flesh surrounding your tip became the only important sensation in the world. Thoughts of how the rest of your shafts would feel when surrounded by her breast filled your mind, and you were pushing to breaking point. Sheer determination would be needed now more than ever. The feeling of the smooth fabric of her yoga pants rubbing against her face, warm and wet from her body and arousal, was really too much to bear. Tight thighs pinned around your head squeezed once more as she lifted her body up once more, alternating to a focus between your face and your shaft. You grit your teeth, trying and urging yourself not to falter in temptations, but every second the urge to break was sensationally or enticing. 9. It was nearly over. Thoughts of release and lasting long enough to fight each other for the small part of your mind that wasn't focused on pleasuring Celestia, so she'd spare you just a little. The warmful sensation of her breast pressed down against your groin, grinding your shaft just at the base of those large pillowy mounds. Then as she pushed up for the final one, her thighs squeezed tighter than ever, before blood rushing into her head as the strong muscles compressed. Aw, damn it, that was in the middle of a paragraph. Fudge. Your face was forced and pushed deeper and deeper into her nether's, meeting your mouth right against her worms that dropped this drift through the fabric of her pants, now intensely damp due to your tongue's attentions and her increasing lust. Hot, soft cheeks compressed around your own. She moaned out, trembling slightly as she pants slightly for air. The constant sensation of your own tongue writhing and squirming as she tries to exert herself, even slightly, causes a rush of pleasure each time she rests down atop your face. 10, she groans out, twitching with arousal. Slowly, ever so slowly, Celestia lets the pressure inflicted upon your head lessen. A strange feeling was a constant squeeze, finally subside, but relaxing definitely would be a word to describe it. Maybe it's because you won, you beat her, and you were able to restrain yourself all this time, something that would have made you snap with ease before. A warm hand stroked down your navel, slipping into your underwear that eagerly allowed her inside, welcoming the hand that grasped at the base of your erection. You let out an vehement moan as Celestia pulled herself off your face. Trembling muscles lifted her weighty ass from your face, allowing you to feel cool, fresh air for the first time in quite a while. Your face was soaked to the bone from the sweat and juices leaking across it that were imprinted into your skin now. I must congratulate you. Like last time, I assumed you would break instantly, but here we are, an hour later, and you're still in this game. I learned from prior experience, and I didn't mention this time, how you've been licking Pre like a fountain. You felt it now, where her hand felt wet against your erection. The slow stroking up and down is enough to keep you at the brink of ecstasy. For a second, Celestia sat back up atop your face, tapping the breath you were inhaling as the cheeks closed in on your face. Warmth and wetness returned for just a brief second, but your tongue was too tired to continue its duty to her. Luckily, Celestia wasn't too interested in that, as she lifted herself up and off from you, standing with one foot either side of your head. Your view changed from darkness with her hips obscuring your face to the sight of those long legs emerging from the sides of your sight, leading all the way up her long-shaped legs. The yoga pants still clung to her skin, stretching around her muscles that shift under her olive skin with sweat. From this angle, it's amazing to see the way it creeps and hugs the incredible curve of her ass. Her thumbs hooked into the rim of those yoga pants that hugged so tightly, and with a light stretch, she began to pull them down slowly. You tried to struggle slightly, but those bonds still kept you down. Her ass shuddered slightly as the fabric was slowly taken down as she moved down to her thighs. The black fabric carried her droplets of her arousal that trickled down her thighs. Celestia was nearly bent over now, sending it down past her knees as it dropped closer to your face. But before she could take it off and let it cover your features, Celestia stepped forward over your arms or over your chest. As her feet lifted one by one, she pulled the ankle of the yoga pants down, taking the pants off with a simple flick. With her feet just underneath your arms, the wet fabric now pulled onto your chest. Her long legs were finally free, allowing you to see their smooth skin without fabric to hold you back from them. Oh man, we're almost reaching 1 hour. Reaching back for the strap on her sports bra that seemed too small to hold those large pillows, Celestia unflicked a single subtle hook and removed the bra with ease, no doubt practiced, slowly undressing herself. Celestia's slow strip tease was sensual. Her hands teased up her white hips and slim waist, stroking her own body slowly as her hands moved up to pull it off and forwards. It fell to the floor, impacting lightly on your lower chest, staying there, although not nearly as wet or as warm. It was still somewhat sexual to have her clothes littered across your body, now completely naked. Celestia stepped forward from your body, down to your still restrained body. In fact, since laying down, you hadn't been able to budge or move an inch, with the invisible restraints holding and pinning you down to the floor. Turning around smoothly, Celestia spun to face you, showing off for the first time her impressive bust. Her breasts, while obviously reaching the limits of large, were full size, with nary a dimple or a mark staining them. Even to the eyes they were soft, and the lusty texture of the olive coloring only lent to their appeal. Nothing where your gaze was focused. She teased you again. The hands slid up the front of her body, forming into a soft hug with her breasts resting on her forearms that fit neatly underneath you. I think you're still good and squirmed long enough, don't you? Sister looked down at you with a smirk, admiring the way that she made you squirm with just a word or a coo of her voice. Yes, it was a croak more than anything, not that your throat was dry from not having talked. Quite the opposite, with her juices still awash on your tongue. It wouldn't take much for her to break you now. Sister knelt down slowly, slotting her knees against your thighs, pressing her body against yours. Warmth flooded through your legs as she pressed down her body onto you. Arousal dripped over your thighs to pool on the floor below you. As she slowly dragged herself from your thighs to your groin, she leant forward, placing her both hands on your chest, almost pulling herself up your body as her hips stood atop yours. Your shaft was trapped underneath your underwear, pinned down by your hips, straddling your own. Soft pink lips sat atop your erection, trying to break through your underwear. Lightly dripping through the fabric, Celestia looked down at you, biting her lower lip with an intense, amorous expression, and her eyes ablaze with lust. She slid a finger down your chest slowly, leaving a small trail of fluid on your skin, avoiding her discarded clothes that had taken a rest there. The finger continued down to your underwear, and the second her finger hit fabric, there was a slight tingling at your waist. Looking down at it as much as you could, you caught the small glimpse of her seemingly eviscerating your underwear with magic, fragments of the fabric floating in the air with borders of gold flame. Hopefully that's just for looks. Hopefully that's just the way it looks. Hopefully she didn't actually just vaporize your underwear. Seeing as your punishment was finally over, you were about to say something, but the warm feeling of her soft lips finally pressing down against your own silenced any idea speaking you had. Licking your lips, Celestia looked down at it, still keeping you restrained by magic, forcing you to watch as she lowered a hand to your shaft. Celestia lifted herself up, using the spare hand upon your chest to push herself up. Although the stress of lifting herself up with one hand had seemed to force her to break into a sweat from the exertion, but still strong, she raised herself up until your erection could fit between you and her. Stroking your shaft with one finger, Celestia pushed and slid up from the base, aligning it just right. A groan from both of you sounded out as the tip of your shaft met the wet lips that parted for you to enter in. A warm shiver rolled down your back as the tip met her wet warmth. Her hand left your cock, returning to cup her significant breast. Something invisible crept across your waist, pinning your hips down with no hope of you regaining control. You would go at her pace, not your own, despite the fire burning up inside your hips and the urge to thrust upwards, nearly screaming inside your mind. This is as much reward as it is mine. This is as much your reward as it is mine. Celestia moaned out, lowering yourself slightly as the first inch disappeared inside her warmth from the lips. In response, you could feel her muscles inside tatting just around the tip, seemingly drawing you deeper and deeper inside. Already, you had to rely on your techniques for lasting longer. Though their efficiency was fading fast, fingers scrabbled on the floor beneath you, trying to get a grasp on something, but nothing was to hand. Celestia descended a little further onto your shaft, taking up to the first half inside with a long extended and erotic moan. It seemed she was having trouble restraining herself too, especially with a look of frustration and wanton desire littering your features every alternate second. Her hips would attempt to gyrate in a circle. Then she would emit a cute little groan, attempting to stop herself. But finally her hips touched yours, letting you feel the warmth and tightness as they surrounded and pleasured her shaft. Her inner wall seemed to quake and squeeze every time she groaned, and making it obvious she was trying to restrain herself as well. Every passing second became increasingly difficult. The muscles inside her vagina was completely out of her control, and Celestia chose to compress around the base first, rolling upwards to force and urge you to orgasm first. Why were you still resisting? The challenge was over and you were free to let loose as soon as you could, trying to get the torturously pleasurable sensation over and away. Was it a game you were playing to try and outlast the princess? She had hundreds of years more experience than you in how to break down someone until they're a quivering wreck in her hands. No more than putty to squeeze. You had definitely been in her plaything today, and so you could lie down and accept. If there was ever a next time, you would have to try to resist a little more. It wasn't the time for that, though, as pleasurable sensations swam across your body back and forth, never giving you a moment's rest. Like a crescendo, you could tell it was approaching. Everywhere in your body was building up to it. From the tingling sensation in your toes to the warmness flowing from your fingers, sweat dripped from both bodies, coating each other equally as Celestia ground her hips against you, urging and encouraging a release from you quickly. Your breathing became panting, gasped for air as your energy was rarefied. You had to fight just a little more to let it out. But you were so close, gritting your teeth, shutting your eyes didn't help as your cock was buried deep deep inside of Celestia, then her weight and body would rise up off yours before she slammed back down again with those thick thighs and voluptuous hips. Then the feelings were out of control. Seeping and flowing up your body, they whisked around your body without care as to your attentions. Pressure built up inside of those. As these feelings gathered in your groin, a hot wave of pleasure that turned into ecstasy and then past that flooded your mind. All thoughts of restraint were gone, leaving just one, the only one you needed right now. With a loud groan, you let go of everything else and allowed the pleasure to overwhelm you. Your gasping only intensified as she slammed down on one final, and having heard your groan out, tightened to begin milking you out of everything she wanted. Every muscle in your body screamed out for movement, anything, just a shake of an arm or a twitch of a leg. But Celestia's bonds kept you still and helpless to fight against your desire to move. Your cock twitched for a single second, then let loose and began to shoot off your pin-up cum deep inside her. As your cock flexed an orgasm inside her body, the pleasure finally got to Celestia, making her tilt her head back to the ceiling and moan profusely. Not bound by any of the restraints you were, her body shook and convulsed with the pleasure, rushing all through her body at once. She had to lean forward and press her hands to your chest to stabilize herself. As her simultaneous orgasms ran I don't know how to say it. As your simultaneous orgasms ran together. Whoo! For each time you thought your cock had spurt its last string of cum deep inside her, such as strong inner muscles were tightening intensely, urging and demanding another slow spurt. Pleasure never stopped, and even when it would usually fade away, leaving you in the afterglow, it only grew and grew. You felt electric skin running with intense pleasure all over from her touch and attentions to you, but there was only so much the mind can take before it gives up, and the last thing you remember before slipping into warm unconsciousness filled with erotic memories of Celestia was her laying her body down on top of you, and for the first time pressing her warm, soft lips to your own. Woo! That's the end of the sex part, boys. It's been an hour and 2. Woo! This said it was right now, I'm not sure after editing, but this said it was going to be an hour and 20 according to the calculation that I normally use. Of course, I haven't read the rest yet, so I need a break from that. Okay. Time skip, probably. When you woke up finally, the sun seemed to have set many hours ago, and now the moon dominated the sky, a purely white disk hovering in an inky black sky with a small but bright light flickering in and out of you. Moving an arm and a leg told you that a heavy duvet was laying on top of your body and a warm pillow under your head. Comfortable and familiar, it didn't take more than a second for you to realize that you were back in your bed, still naked, still slightly covered in juices at your groin that soaked slightly into the warm quilt on you. A letter handwritten lay on your bedside table, kept upright by the inactive lamp. Willing over to try and grasp it, 2 items of clothing that were atop your prone body were flattened by your chest. A quick check revealed them to be Celestia's attire earlier, a damp pair of yoga pants that seemed far too small to fit Celestia's body on your upper chest, and white sports bra by your crotch. The aroma these two gave off with an arousing in and of itself, but you had a letter to read. Extending an arm to grasp it, you took the paper and looked at the handwritten words on the page. Till next time, love, Celestia. Alright, that's the end, boys. Now, I really hope my boy Anon, other than to be her thing, I really hope my boy Anon has, an actual, committed relationship with her, to be honest, man. I know, she probably wants it hidden, because, princess and all that, even though apparently Muna fucks every guard, she can, I guess, or picks a guard to fuck every, once in the blue moon, meaning, once after, their life expectancy is up, or they get old, and, they have to leave. I'm pretty sure that was what, was explained earlier with her. Because, we know that she's getting fucked by the guards, or guards GPX, I'm not quite sure. Man, that's kind of annoying. Woo! I haven't read a story like that in a while, but at the same time, it took me 3 days to get into the whole groove of things. God damn, I'm rusty as can be! Anyways, guys, like I said, I've been trying to focus on my gaming channel, so everything that's reading past an hour is kind of oh shit, dude. Also, like I mentioned in the beginning of this video, I think light novels are going to be moved to a new channel to keep them separated, because, you're different customers. People who watch the light novels are different customers that I got intrigued into that. So yeah, different areas for everything. That's basically how YouTube works nowadays, because, I can't just throw things into one channel and just become popular out of it. Kind of annoying, but that's how it works. Anyways, guys, thank you guys for watching, listening, what you guys do, and I've been talking so long, my voice is out of breath. Goodbye. See you guys in the next one. And I'm dead.